Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
This is the Bloomberg Daybreak Europe podcast. Good morning. It's Tuesday the 20th of January. I'm Stephen Carroll in London. Coming up today, Germany's Chancellor seeks to rein in the French President on the EU's response to American tariff threats. Sour grapes. President Trump floats a 200% champagne levy after Emmanuel Macron rejects his invitation to join his Gaza peace board. Plus, how Italy's Banca Promos is breaking the mould with its all-women trading desk. Let's start with a roundup of our top stories. The US president is reinforcing his increasingly aggressive push for ownership of Greenland. Speaking in Florida just hours ago, Donald Trump called the island a national security necessity to counter Russia and China. And in a sign that calls to avoid escalation are going unheeded, Trump added that he does not expect the European Union to offer significant resistance.
Well, I don't think they're going to push back too much. Look, we have to have it. They have to have this done. They can protect it. Denmark, they're wonderful people. And I know the leaders, they're very good people, but they don't even go there. And, because the boat went there 500 years ago and then left, that doesn't give you title to property.
Trump also says he'll meet with several parties over his ambition to take control of Greenland during this week's World Economic Forum in Davos. His latest comments come as Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz sought to de-escalate tensions following the threat of tariffs on 8 European countries.
We do not want this escalation. We do not want a trade dispute with the United States of America. But if we are confronted with tariffs that we consider inappropriate, then we are in a position to respond. And that is precisely what we will be discussing in Brussels on Thursday.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz speaking through a translator after French President Emmanuel Macron said the EU should consider using its most powerful trade tool, the anti-coercion instrument. That would allow for additional tariffs, new taxes on overseas firms, and even foreign investment curbs. Macron's push for a robust EU response came as the US president directly threatened France with a 200% tariff on its wines and champagne. In the last few minutes, Trump also posted what he said were screenshots of messages from the French leader to his Truth Social account discussing a proposed meeting with the leaders of Ukraine, Syria, Denmark and Russia. The move came after Emmanuel Macron declined Trump's invitation to join a proposed Board of Peace for Gaza. Here's what the US president told reporters a short time ago.
Well, nobody wants him because he's going to be out of office very soon. So, that's all right. What I'll do is if they feel like Costco, I'll put a 200% tariff on his wines and champagnes and he'll join. But he doesn't have to join.
President Trump speaking there as he also confirmed that Russia's Vladimir Putin had also been invited to join the board. Privately, senior European officials have told Bloomberg they see the Board of Peace as an attempt by Trump to set up a rival or replacement for the United Nations. France is nearing the end of its budget stalemate as the Prime Minister is opting to bypass a parliamentary vote on the spending plans. Sebastien Lecornu says he'll use Article 49.3 of the French Constitution to adopt a revised version of the bill following failed attempts to build sufficient support for it in the National Assembly. The decision suggests Lecornu, who previously ruled out using this measure, has secured enough parliamentary backing to survive subsequent no-confidence votes. France's lower house has remained divided since the 2024 snap election left no group with a sufficient majority to govern. The UK's deadline to approve or deny China's planned mega embassy in London is today, and the government appears to be gearing up to say yes. Foreign Minister Seema Malhotra told the UK Parliament that some of the embassy's concerns have been resolved, but the decision is said to be highly controversial to diplomats and national security officials. Bloomberg's James Wilcock has more.
Britain's difficult geopolitical game has come to Parliament today. This morning, Mike Johnson, the US Speaker of the House, is in the Commons to showcase the special relationship. Hours later, in the same building, the Housing Secretary Steve Reed will announce the UK's decision on China's mega embassy in London. It's one of Beijing's key asks ahead of the UK Prime Minister's planned visit to China later this month. But the two back-to-back events show the challenge Britain faces in trying to keep both superpowers on side. In London, James Wilcock, Bloomberg Radio.
The UK government is asking the public whether social media should be banned for children under 16. Technology Secretary Liz Kendall says she wants a national conversation on how to deliver a safer online world for kids.
This will be a short 3-month consultation. We want to make sure everybody's voices are heard, but we are absolutely resolute. We will act to take further measures to keep children safe online.
Alongside the consultation, Kendall announced all schools should be phone-free by default. Politicians across the UK's political spectrum have raised concerns about social media causing anxiety and exposing children to adult content and exploitation. Australia banned social media use for under 16s last month, and now many countries around the world are wondering if they should follow suit. Those are your top stories on the markets. The MSCI Asia Pacific Index 0.5% lower this morning. The Nikkei in Tokyo down by 1%. Eurostoxx 50's futures down by 0.1%. But we do have US assets catching up after yesterday's holiday. So 10-year Treasury yields joining the global bond sell-off. The 10-year Treasury yield up 4 basis points this morning to 4.26%. Wall Street stock futures firmly in the red as well, down 1.1% for S&P. E-minis 1.25% lower for Nasdaq futures. The Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index seeing further weakness today, although we did have both gold and silver prices hit a record high in trading today. Gold's currently up 0.9%, $4,714 a troy ounce. In a moment, we'll bring you the latest on Europe's response to Trump's tariff threats, plus a rarity from the world of finance, the bond desk at a Naples bank that's breaking the mould with its all-women team. But another story we've been reading this morning, in case you're thinking of a new career this Tuesday morning. Have you considered becoming a water sommelier? Our Jennifer Creary has been reporting on someone who has this job at Danone, overseeing brands including Evian, Volvic and Badois. Ludovico de Gioia has a trained palate to identify the distinctive tastes and textures that water can have. So he listens to the bubbles in sparkling water. He notes the salty, crisp or sweet notes in the taste. And also he measures what he calls mouthfeel, which allows him to determine the minerals the water has acquired in the earth as well. Now, he samples water from springs across Europe and beyond. He's one of actually 4 water sommeliers at Danone. There is actually an official course you can sign up for if you want to train to be a water sommelier. It's a school in Germany that's been around since 2011. Of course, the goal is finding the perfect water that people are willing to pay for. At Danone, it's a €5 billion a year business. Although it's increasingly facing the challenge, interestingly, from GLP-1 drugs, the weight loss drugs, the people who are on them actually tend to drink less water than they did before. This is an area that Danone sees the potential for growth for, as do its competitors, hence needing a sommelier to get the very best out of them. Well, let's bring you more now on how Europe's formulating its next moves on Donald Trump's latest tariff threats over Greenland. Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz says he's trying to persuade France's president to tone down his response. We've also had more from the US President Donald Trump speaking in Florida to reporters. Our chief Europe correspondent Oliver Crook joins us now for more. Oliver, let's start with what we've been hearing from the US President on this front. He's been talking about his conversations with Emmanuel Macron.
Yeah, this seems to be, I don't know exactly what this is, but it seems to be a tradition now for Donald Trump to, right before he comes to Europe, he starts to sort of share very publicly what are private messages between him and various leaders. You'll remember before he came to The Hague for the NATO meeting, he shared these sort of very kind of over the top, very sort of very bizarre, frankly, messages from Mark Rutte and other things as he was sort of on Air Force One heading over, and now he seems to be sharing a message chain or a text message that he received from Emmanuel Macron, a screenshot on Truth Social that says the following. It says, "My friend, we are totally aligned in line on Syria. We can do great things on Iran. I do not understand what you are doing on Greenland. Let's try to build great things. 1, I can set up a G7 meeting after Davos in Paris on Thursday afternoon. I can invite the Ukrainians, the Danish, the Syrians, and the Russians in the margins. 2, let us have a dinner together in Paris together on Thursday before you go back to the U.S., Emmanuel." So that seems to be a text message from the president of France to the president of the United States in an effort to try to get more contact with the president one-on-one, but also to assemble a G7 meeting in the afternoon of Thursday after Davos, and that would be preceding the meeting that would be happening in Brussels, the emergency meeting on Thursday evening. Again, the French president sort of, very clearly in this message, somewhat bewildered bewildered by the American president's behavior on Greenland. And we should say it's sort of interesting. And again, this is obviously not meant for the public, but that Macron is talking, about bringing the Russians in at the margins in these conversations, potentially in France.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, at this stage, we only have this screenshot posted by Donald Trump as well, and no confirmation from the Elysee as to the source of it. Let's talk a bit about the debate that's playing out in Europe over how they're planning to respond, though, to the tariff threats, which has been really the escalation we've seen over the past number of days. We have the German Chancellor and the French President apparently pushing in different directions.
Yeah, I mean, this is the sort of classic debate that you get here in Europe, and you kind of saw it play out in the first trade war last year, where the Germans and the French don't really have the same approach and the same sort of tack, and that's because their interests are not fully aligned, right? There is Emmanuel Macron, who tends to come out really swinging, saying, all right, well, let's bring out this bazooka on trade, this anti-coercion instrument. Let's really go hard on the United States. And you have Friedrich Merz, who has basically more than twice as much trade with the United States than France does, saying, listen, let's take a little bit more of a measured approach. But I think there is a dawning realization for both of these, and for everybody really within Europe, is that yesterday it was about the trade deficit. Today it's about Greenland. And if appeasement continues, tomorrow it'll be about something else. So the line needs to be drawn somewhere. The question is, where will that line be drawn? And I think what will be very interesting to see on Thursday, Stephen, when we're watching this emergency meeting here in Brussels, is where do the other countries line up on this? We had some sort of positive messages from Giorgia Meloni talking about European solidarity, but of course she wasn't targeted by these tariffs. I'd like to see when they get in the room what they have to say. And of course, the Baltics and the Eastern Europeans, you think of Poland, for example, what is more important to Poland? Is it going to be keeping the United States on board on Ukraine and defense against Russia, or is it going to be Greenland? I think those will be fascinating debates to watch play out among the European leaders.
Oliver, to borrow a Trumpian expression, does the EU have the cards when it comes to this negotiation?
Listen, I think that no matter what's going to happen with a trade argument between the United States and Europe, Europe is always going to suffer more, largely on when it comes down to the goods. And that's just the reality of having basically a trade surplus with the United States. It's a much more powerful gambit. And of course, as a political entity, the United States can move in unison. It can move much more quickly. The Europeans are very dependent on trying to find consensus and getting all those things over the line. And we actually heard from Scott Bessent speaking yesterday, saying that basically, the Europeans are just going to set up a working group, this dreaded working group, and basically nothing much will come of it. So I think the Americans are sort of banking on the fact that they won't be able to get much going. That being said, again, the Europeans do not want to escalate the situation. They do not want to have a trade war. There's been a lot of writing about, the potential for European asset holders and governments to sort of sell American bonds. I think that would be basically an act of financial warfare, and I don't think anybody wants to go there, but that is a point of leverage with the, Europeans holding more treasuries than almost anybody else in the world.
Okay, Oliver Crook, our chief Europe correspondent, thank you. Stay with us. More from Bloomberg Daybreak Europe coming up after this. Well, now to a story from Italy and the bond desk in a Naples bank that's a rarity in the world of finance, an all-female team. Banca Promo's 8 fixed-income traders work with buyers and sellers from across 50 countries, handling more than 15 billion euros in transactions last year. Stephen Aarons, who leads our team covering finance across Europe, joins us now for more. Stephen, good morning. How unusual is this for a trading desk to be uniquely staffed by women?
Hey, good morning. So it's very unusual. I mean, I've been covering the industry for a long time. I've never seen it. I mean, to have actually just one woman on a desk is sometimes unusual, but to be the whole desk is, I've never seen it before. So it's really quite amazing.
So how did it come about then at Banca Promos?
It's interesting. It's coincidental. The story says it happened but I mean, if you look at the story, it also says that 19 out of the 13 total employees of the bank are female. The CEO is female. So it seems like even though there isn't like a clear diversity policy saying all of these people need to be female, there must have been a decision at some point. And it's probably also, these people know each other. And so it's a word of mouth kind of thing, probably.
Talk to us a bit about what the traders who were part of this team say about the experience of working there.
They like it. They're proud of what they've achieved. They are, they take their work extremely serious, but they also tell about how, having like-minded people in a way is helping them cope with situations. So there was an earthquake, for example. It's a town where they were close to the volcano of Vesuv. And so there's sometimes earthquakes in that region. And when there's earthquakes, many of these people are parents, mothers, and they have to look after their children, obviously. And then there's a sort of community. People help each other. They step in to replace it, to substitute for each other on the trading desk. And so this kind of sense of being a community helps too.
Talk to us a bit about the bank itself. Banca Promos might not perhaps be the biggest name in finance, but it has a reasonably long history in Naples.
That's right. It's a small bank, but it's carved itself out a niche in trading. So it's been around for a while. And so even though it's small, it seems to have what it takes to survive and make money. The owner of the bank is now sort of getting ready to retire, I suppose, and he's now looking or thinking about succession. So that's going to be the next step for the bank.
Okay, Stephen, thank you so much for joining us. Stephen Aarons there, who leads our team covering finance across Europe. This is Bloomberg Daybreak Europe, your morning brief on the stories making news from London to Wall Street and beyond.
Look for us on your podcast feed every morning on Apple, Spotify and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
You can also listen live each morning on London DAB Radio, the Bloomberg Business app and Bloomberg.com.
Our flagship New York station is also available on your Amazon Alexa devices. Just say, Alexa, play Bloomberg 1130. I'm Caroline Hepker.
And I'm Stephen Carroll. Join us again tomorrow morning for all the news you need to start your day, right here on Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.